Here is something that is going to sit with you long after this video ends. There is a version of Jennifer Pan that everyone believed in. Her teachers believed in it. Her neighbors believed in it. Her church believed in it. The entire community of Markham, Ontario believed in it. Her parents believed in it most of all. The version they believed in was this: a quiet, disciplined, exceptionally talented young Vietnamese-Canadian woman. A figure skater who had trained since she was 3 years old. An honor student on her way to becoming a pharmacist. A daughter who had never given her parents a single reason to doubt her. That version of Jennifer Pan was a lie. Not a small lie. Not the kind of lie you tell to get out of trouble or to avoid a difficult conversation. A decade-long lie. A masterpiece of deception so detailed, so consistent, so ruthlessly maintained that the people who loved her most never saw through it until the night a gunman walked into their house and put a bullet in her mother's head. And here is the part that is going to make you stop breathing for a second. Jennifer Pan made that call. She sat in that house. She let those men in. She listened to her mother die. And then she picked up the phone and called 911 and cried and told the operator that strangers had broken in and taken everything from her. She played the grieving daughter. She had been playing a role her entire life. This was just one more performance. But this time the curtain came down. And when it did, what investigators found underneath was not a monster. It was not a sociopath. It was not someone who had been broken and evil from the beginning. What they found was a young woman who had been so completely suffocated by the weight of other people's expectations that she had built an entire fictional life just to survive inside her own home. And then she decided that killing was easier than telling the truth. Stay with us, because this story goes so much deeper than the headlines ever told you. This is beautiful but criminal. And today we are talking about Jennifer Pan. To understand what Jennifer Pan did, you have to understand where Jennifer Pan came from. Because nothing about this case makes sense without the family that shaped her. Huei Hann Pan and Bich Pan were Vietnamese refugees. They had fled Vietnam and built their lives from nothing in Canada. They settled in Markham, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto, and they worked. They worked harder than most people can imagine. Huei Hann became a factory worker. Bich worked alongside him. They saved. They sacrificed. They built a home. And into that home, they poured everything they had. They had 2 children, a son named Felix, and a daughter named Jennifer. And on Jennifer, they placed the full weight of everything they had survived to give her. This is not a story about bad parents. That is the first thing we need to be clear about. Huei Hann and Bich Pan were not villains. They were immigrants who had come from a culture where the success of your children was the entire point of your sacrifice. Where education was not a choice, but an obligation. Where bringing shame to your family was among the worst things you could do. They loved Jennifer. They loved her in the most complete and total way they knew how. But their love came with a structure. And that structure had no room for failure. Jennifer had to get top grades. Jennifer had to excel at figure skating. Jennifer had to come home on time, go to the right school, pursue the right career, date the right person, be the right daughter. Every single part of her life was mapped out before she was old enough to choose any of it for herself. And for a while she kept up. She was genuinely talented at skating. She trained obsessively. She competed. She was good. But then her knees gave out. An injury ended her skating career before she was even a teenager. And the path her parents had imagined for her had to be rebuilt. No problem. Jennifer would become a doctor. Or a pharmacist. Something prestigious. Something that would make the sacrifice worth it. Except there was something Huei Hann and Bich did not know about their daughter. Jennifer Pan was not a straight-A student. She was struggling. Quietly, invisibly, falling further and further behind while presenting a completely perfect face to her parents every single day. And rather than tell them the truth, Jennifer Pan began to lie. The lies started small, the way they always do. A bad grade hidden. A test result changed. A teacher's comment intercepted before her parents could see it. But small lies require bigger lies to protect them. And bigger lies require even bigger ones after that. And before Jennifer Pan was even 16 years old, she had constructed an entire parallel reality inside the walls of her family's home in Markham. On the outside, she was still the perfect daughter. On the inside, she was drowning. And then she met Daniel Wong. Daniel was not the kind of boy her parents approved of. He was not on the path they had laid out. He was not headed to university or a prestigious career. He was young and aimless, and he made Jennifer feel something she had almost never felt inside her own life. Free. With Daniel, Jennifer did not have to perform. She did not have to be perfect. She could just be a teenage girl who laughed too loud and stayed out too late and did not have every single moment of her existence accounted for. She fell completely in love with him. Her parents found out, and they shut it down immediately. Daniel Wong was not acceptable. Jennifer was not allowed to see him. She kept seeing him anyway. In secret, lying about where she was going, who she was with, what she was doing. And here is where the lies became something else entirely. In 2006, Jennifer Pan failed to graduate from high school. She did not have the grades. She was missing credits. She simply did not pass. She never told her parents. Instead, she told them she had graduated. She dressed up on graduation day. She went through the motions. And her parents, who believed everything their perfect daughter told them, never questioned it. Then she told them she had been accepted to Ryerson University to study science. She told them she was attending classes. Every single day she left the house with a backpack, drove away, and spent the day at coffee shops, at Daniel's apartment, doing anything except going to university because she was not enrolled in university because she had never graduated high school. For 4 years. For years she maintained this fiction. She came home with fake grades. She invented professors and assignments and exams. She constructed an entire university career out of thin air and presented it to her parents, who celebrated every achievement she had never actually earned. And then she told them she had gotten a job at a pharmacy. She had not gotten a job at a pharmacy. She was working at a restaurant. But the pharmacy job sounded better. The pharmacy job fit the story. So the pharmacy job is what her parents heard. Pause right here and think about what this required. Every single day for nearly a decade, Jennifer Pan woke up and maintained a lie so complex, so layered, so all-encompassing that a single mistake would bring the entire structure crashing down. She had to remember every fake detail. She had to keep her stories consistent. She had to perform perfection for the two people who knew her better than anyone in the world. She did it. For years. Without breaking. That tells you something about Jennifer Pan. Something important. This was not a disorganized, impulsive person. This was someone with an extraordinary capacity for sustained deception. And that capacity was about to be applied to something far darker than a fake university degree. Now, before we go further, we want to pause and ask you something really quickly. If this story is already pulling you in, if you are already leaning forward, trying to understand how a person builds a life this hollow and this dangerous, then you are exactly who this channel is made for. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications, because we put out a brand new case every single week, and every single one of them goes this deep. We are not here for surface-level true crime. We are here for the full story, the psychology, the family, the moment everything broke. So subscribe now and stay with us, because this story is about to get so much darker. In 2008, 2 years into Jennifer's fake university career, her parents discovered she was still seeing Daniel Wong. They had found out before, and she had promised to stop. She had lied. She had kept seeing him. And now they found out again. Huei Hann Pan sat his daughter down and gave her a choice. Daniel Wong or this family. The life they had built for her, or the boy they did not approve of. Jennifer chose her family. At least that is what she told her parents. She called Daniel, and she broke up with him. She told him her parents had found out. She told him it was over. And something inside Jennifer Pan went very quiet. She moved back under her parents' roof full-time. She continued her fake life. She continued pretending to go to work and come home and be the daughter they needed her to be. But the one real thing she had in her life was gone now. The one place she had felt like herself. The one person who had seen her without the performance. Daniel was gone. For a while. Because Jennifer did not actually end things with Daniel. She just went underground. She kept calling him. Secretly. From a second phone her parents did not know about. She maintained a clandestine relationship with him, even as she was telling her parents every day that she was exactly who they had raised her to be. And as the months wore on, something shifted in Jennifer Pan. Because the lies were becoming impossible to sustain, her parents were starting to ask harder questions about her career, about why she had not advanced further, about when she was going to move into a real professional position, about the timeline they had imagined for her life. And Jennifer had no answers that would hold up much longer. The fictional life she had built was starting to collapse under its own weight. She could feel the walls closing in. And when she looked around for a way out, she could not find one. She could not tell her parents the truth. The truth would destroy them. The truth would end everything. The shame of it, in the family and community context she lived in, felt unsurvivable. She could not run. She had no money. She had no real qualifications. She had no university degree. She had built nothing real in the years she had pretended to build everything. She was trapped. And that is when Jennifer Pan began to think about a different kind of solution. We want to be very precise about what happened next, because this is the part of Jennifer Pan's story that separates it from every other case of family deception you have ever heard. Jennifer Pan did not snap. She did not act in a moment of rage or desperation. What she did next was cold and calculated and took months to arrange. She reached back out to Daniel Wong. She told him she needed help. She told him she needed someone to come to the house. She told him what she needed that someone to do. Daniel Wong had connections. People he knew from the edges of criminal life in Toronto. People who did things for money. Jennifer Pan wanted her parents dead. Not one of them. Both of them. She wanted the house to look like a home invasion. She wanted it to appear that strangers had broken in looking for money and things had gone wrong. She would be in the house, tied up, a victim. She would be the grieving daughter who had survived the worst night of her life. She planned it. She discussed it on the phone. She made calls. She arranged meetings. She negotiated a price. And in the weeks and months leading up to November 8, 2010, she made over 150 phone calls to the men she was hiring to kill her parents. 150 calls. She was meticulous. She was patient. She stayed in character the entire time. And on the night of November 8, 2010, Jennifer Pan unlocked the back door of her family home in Markham, Ontario, and let 3 men inside. It was around 10 o'clock at night. Huei Han and Bich Pan were at home. They were in bed. It was a normal night in the house they had spent decades building. Jennifer Pan was downstairs. 3 men came through the back door she had left unlocked for them. They moved through the house. They found Bich first. Bich Pan was shot in the head. Huei Han was shot multiple times in the face and body. Jennifer, she was loosely tied with zip ties. She was left there. And then the men left. Jennifer Pan called 911. She was crying. She was panicking. She told the operator that men had broken in, that her parents had been shot, that she did not know if they were alive. When police arrived, they found exactly what Jennifer had arranged for them to find. A young woman in distress. A house that appeared to have been broken into. 2 victims upstairs. Bich Pan was dead. Huei Han Pan was barely alive. He had been shot multiple times at close range. By every medical standard, he should not have survived. But he did. He was rushed to hospital, and he survived. And that survival changed everything. Because when Huei Han Pan woke up in that hospital bed, he did not protect his daughter. He did not make excuses for her. He did not look for reasons to believe she was innocent. He told investigators everything he knew. He answered every question. He cooperated completely. And investigators, who had already started pulling at threads, began to find what was underneath. The home invasion story had problems from the very beginning. The zip ties Jennifer had been bound with were loose. Suspiciously loose. The kind of loose that suggested they had been put on by someone who did not actually want to restrain the person wearing them. Jennifer's effect was off. Investigators who had seen genuine trauma victims noted that something about her emotional responses felt performed rather than real. Grief has a particular texture to it. Jennifer's did not quite have that texture. And then they pulled her phone records. What they found was not the phone of a young woman who had no connection to the men who had broken into her home. What they found was a phone that told the complete story of what Jennifer Pan had done. Hundreds of calls to Daniel Wong in the weeks before the attack. Calls to the men he had connected her with. Text messages that mapped the entire conspiracy. Jennifer Pan had not been careful enough. Or perhaps she had been so accustomed to lying successfully that she had underestimated what a proper investigation could find. Police arrested her. They arrested Daniel Wong. They arrested the 3 men who had entered the house. And when investigators sat across from Jennifer Pan and began to ask questions, the same capacity for sustained performance that had kept her double life hidden for a decade began to work against her. Because investigators knew what she had done. They had the phone records. They had the evidence. And they watched her try to lie her way through an interrogation that she had already lost. The story she told did not hold up. Not even close. Jennifer Pan was charged with first-degree murder for the death of her mother Bich Pan. She was charged with the attempted murder of her father Huei Han Pan. She was charged with the attempted murder of the police officer who had responded to her 911 call and had been shot by one of the hired men. She was 24 years old. And now comes the part of this story that we want you to really sit with before we move into the trial. Because we are about to talk about what happened in that courtroom and what Jennifer Pan said when she finally had to speak the truth out loud. But first, if you have made it this far into this video, then you already know that this channel is different. We go places other true crime channels will not go. We talk about the psychology. We talk about the cultural context. We talk about what was really happening underneath the crime. And we do that every single week with a brand new case. So if you are not subscribed yet, do it right now. Tap the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave us a comment below telling us what part of Jennifer Pan's story shocked you the most so far, because we are reading every single one and we want to hear from you. Now let us get back to the trial. The trial of Jennifer Pan began in 2014 in Newmarket, Ontario. It lasted for months. The evidence against her was overwhelming. The phone records alone were devastating. Prosecutors laid out a timeline of calls and messages that showed Jennifer Pan planning, arranging, and executing a murder conspiracy over a period of months. There was no innocent explanation for 150 calls to a man who then sent 3 gunmen to her family home. But it was the testimony that made the courtroom go silent. Because at trial, the full picture of Jennifer Pan's double life was presented for the first time in public. The fake graduation, the fake university career, the fake pharmacy job, for years of constructed fiction presented to her parents as their daughter's real life. Huei Han Pan took the stand. He sat in that courtroom and he described his daughter. He described the way they had raised her. He described the pride he had felt in her achievements. And then he described watching those achievements dissolve into nothing as prosecutors showed him the truth of who his daughter had actually been. He was asked what he felt toward Jennifer now. He said he still loved her. He said he did not understand what had happened to his child. That testimony broke something in the courtroom. Because Huei Han Pan was not a man consumed by rage. He was a father who was trying to reconcile the daughter he had raised with the woman who had arranged for both of them to be killed. And he could not do it. He had no framework for it. He sat there looking like a man who had survived a gunshot wound only to discover that the wound that could not be treated was the one inside his chest. Jennifer Pan took the stand in her own defense. She was composed. She was articulate. She was, to the end, a performer. She admitted to some of what had happened. She tried to reframe the narrative. She said that she had not wanted both of her parents to die. She said that the plan had been to fake the home invasion and fake her own kidnapping and run away with Daniel Wong and start a new life. She said things had gone further than she intended. Prosecutors destroyed this version of events. Because the evidence did not support a plan to run away. The evidence supported a plan to kill both parents and collect their life insurance. Jennifer Pan could perform many things, but she could not perform her way out of her own phone records. On December 13, 2014, the jury returned their verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of attempted murder. Guilty on all counts. Jennifer Pan was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Daniel Wong received the same sentence. The 3 men who had entered the house were also convicted. Jennifer Pan was 28 years old when the verdict came down. She will not be eligible for parole until she is in her 50s. Here is where we want to go deeper than every other version of this story you have seen. Because most coverage of Jennifer Pan stops at the crime. It stops at the verdict. It stops at the sentence. It presents her as a cautionary tale about a bad daughter who did a terrible thing and got what she deserved. And we are not here to excuse what Jennifer Pan did. She orchestrated the murder of her mother. She arranged the attempted murder of her father. She put an innocent police officer in danger. What she did was monstrous. But here is the question that nobody seems willing to ask. How does a person get here? How does a young woman who by all accounts was not a violent person, not a criminal, not someone with a history of cruelty, end up deciding that hiring men to shoot her parents was preferable to telling them the truth? What was she so afraid of? Because that question matters. Not because it changes what she did. It does not. But because if we do not ask it, we do not understand how this happens. And if we do not understand how this happens, we cannot recognize the warning signs when we see them in the real world. Jennifer Pan was not born planning to kill her parents. She was born into a structure that had no room for her to be anything other than perfect. She was loved, yes, deeply loved, But she was loved in a way that made failure feel like death. Failure felt unsurvivable. The shame of it felt bigger than everything. So she chose to disappear into a lie rather than face the truth. And when the lie became impossible to maintain, when she could see no way forward that did not end in complete destruction, she made the most catastrophic decision a person can make. She chose violence over vulnerability. She chose murder over a conversation. And that is a tragedy on top of a tragedy. Because two people paid for it with their bodies. Her mother with her life. Her father with wounds he will carry forever. And Jennifer Pan with decades inside a prison cell. All because she could not find a way to say 3 words to the people who loved her. I need help. We are not saying the system failed her. We are not saying she was not responsible. She was responsible. Completely. We are saying that when we look at what produced Jennifer Pan, we have to be willing to look at all of it. The pressure, the expectation, the suffocation of a life with no acceptable exits. Because understanding that is the only way any of this means anything beyond a story we consume and forget. As of the most recent reporting available, Jennifer Pan is currently serving her life sentence in a Canadian federal institution. She has maintained a relatively low profile since her conviction. There have been no successful appeals that have changed the substance of her case. Huei Hann Pan, her father, the man who survived being shot multiple times and who sat in a courtroom and testified against his own daughter, has largely stayed out of the public eye since the trial. He lost his wife. He lost his daughter. He nearly lost his own life. What he carries forward from that night is something no media coverage can fully account for. Felix Pan, Jennifer's brother, has also remained private. The 3 men convicted alongside Jennifer Pan and Daniel Wong are also serving their sentences. There is a documentary about this case. There has been extensive podcast coverage. Jennifer Pan's story has been told many times and in many formats. But we would argue it has never been told quite this way. With full attention to the cultural context, the psychology, the family structure, the impossible pressure, and the catastrophic human cost of a life built entirely on performance with no room left for truth. Jennifer Pan's mother Bich loved her daughter. She died not knowing that the danger in her home that night had her daughter's fingerprints on it. She died, we have to hope, without ever understanding what was happening, without knowing that the child she had sacrificed everything to give the best possible life to had made the phone call that ended hers. That is the part of this story we carry. Not the crime, not the sentence, not the courtroom drama, the mother who never knew. There is no clean lesson in a story like this. There is no simple moral that wraps it up and makes it make sense. What there is a family destroyed by a silence that grew so large it became lethal. A daughter who decided that death was easier than disappointment. A father who survived the unsurvivable and had to learn to carry it. And somewhere in a Canadian prison cell, a woman who is now living with the consequences of every choice she made in the years she spent performing a life instead of living one. We do not know what Jennifer Pan thinks about at night. We do not know if she has made peace with what she did or if she is still somewhere inside the same performance, the same careful management of how she appears to the people around her. We only know what the record shows. And the record shows a woman who is capable of extraordinary things. Extraordinary deception, yes, but underneath that, extraordinary endurance. Extraordinary emotional labor. A mind that could hold 1,000 moving pieces together simultaneously. Imagine what Jennifer Pan could have been if even one person in her life had told her that failure was survivable. That disappointing the people you love does not have to be the end of the world. That the truth, however painful, is always lighter than the lie. Imagine what Bich Pan would be doing today if her daughter had walked into the kitchen one morning and said, "Mom, I need to tell you something. I have not been telling you the truth." We say her name here. Bich Pan. She deserved to know her real daughter. And she never got the chance. This has been beautiful, but criminal. Before we let you go, we need a moment with you. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you uncomfortable in the way that only real truth can, then you are exactly who we built this channel for. And we need you to do something right now before you click away. Subscribe to Beautiful but Criminal. Right now? Not later. Not after the next video. Right now? Because we post every single week, and every single week we go this deep on cases that the mainstream true crime world glosses over or ignores entirely. We are not here for surface level. We are here for the full story. the psychology, the family, the cultural context, the human cost. That is what we do, and that is what we will keep doing as long as you are here with us. Leave a comment below right now and tell us one thing. What part of Jennifer Pan's story hit you the hardest? Was it the decade of lies? Was it the father on the stand who said he still loved her? Was it the mother who never knew? Tell us. We read every single comment on this channel. Every one. And your comment helps us understand what stories you need us to tell next. Share this video. Send it to someone you know who watches true crime. Post it to your story. Because the cases we cover do not get mainstream attention. The only way they reach the people who need to hear them is through you. You are how this channel grows. You are how these stories get told. And you are the reason we are going to keep making content like this every single week. Bich Hann deserved better. Jennifer Pan deserved a different life. And the stories we tell here deserve to be heard. This has been beautiful but criminal. Subscribe. Comment. We'll see you in the next one. We'll see you in